This is Inspiring Design, where unique innovators come together to share their knowledge, share their insight, and keep us up to date with the latest industry trends. And here's your host, Sharon and I.
All right, welcome back, fellow designers, educators, and listeners. We've got a really special guest today. She is actually one of the teachers and head of e-learning at St. John's Anglican College. I'm going to begin with a little bit of a background, but it's going to sound very impressive. She's actually an international educator. She's worked and taught in the US, Fiji, Hong Kong, Singapore, South Korea, and now in Australia. She's a leader in innovation, problem solving, and future thinking, giving ownership to our future generation and inspiring them to take lead in and accountability for their own work. She's in the Professional Advisory Board as an ICT educator for the Australian Computer Society. And as of this week, she is now on an addition to the QSide board. So I want to make her feel welcome. Sharon Singh from St. John's Anglican. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Roshan.
Can you just start off with giving us a little bit of a background of yourself?
You've already said so much. I think, yes, I think one of the most enriching and fulfilling things for me has been working in education around the world and working in curriculums that are, so different. I worked with the IGCSE in the British curriculum from Cambridge, the International Baccalaureate, the IB, that also originated from England. And then we have a look at the Australian curriculum, and then the American curriculum, the AP. So all of that has really enriched me in the way I look at how the education, the pedagogies align with what we want the students to gain, in the teaching and learning field. So yes, I think the roaming around, or whatever you call it, from country to country, has been very, very fulfilling for me. My focus and the area of focus and the leadership area has been mainly in the computer sciences and digital technologies, and also looking at the areas where students can develop and grow in terms of their thinking, and especially in the area of computational thinking, design thinking, and systems thinking, which lends to the subject area that I come from. But I think I am very biased, and I think it's important in every discipline, not just in my computer area or IT area, digital technologies area. I think these apply in no matter what discipline you are in. It's the type of thinking that we are producing while we are, working with any problems that we are about to solve, any needs that we are addressing. So yes, so I think yes, it's quite. It can sound daunting, but I don't think it is daunting. And I think, to tell you the truth, it's like everyone does it. They just don't recognize that they do. They don't realize that they are actually doing that. What we are doing is kind of decomposing it, breaking it down, and just showing them, hey, this is what is being done.
And this is why one of the things that I've noticed literally walking into your school in the first couple of minutes was the relationship that you have with your students. It's I was lucky enough to have that kind of a relationship with Phil Reed from Craigsley. I think he's at a different school at the moment, but I found that same connection and in a mass way with all your students, and they're in there learning and doing their own projects during lunchtime and wanting to grow and do things. Was that even part of their assessment, or was that a passion project?
I think it's your term. I'll use your term. Passion. It's a passion project. See, we have students working on their projects, and they do come at lunchtimes, morning tea, after school. One of the, I'm very blessed with the design center that I have been able to put in place. I've been, given the privilege to design and implement over here with all the resources that I have. So yes, I'm very blessed in that sense. But also the students come and being open with them, letting them just make some mistakes, I think is very important. One of the things I've learned, and I'm very strong in the philosophy of the International Baccalaureate. It focuses on the higher order thinking skills, a huge amount, and I find letting the students solve the problem themselves is something I enjoy watching. It's just watching them find the answers themselves. They'll come ask questions, but I will facilitate getting to the answer.
I think that's the key word.
Yes. And I will not tell them the answer. And I think one of the things I do love about being, IB at St. John's, St. John's being able to offer the IB here is to always say, hey, you're an IB student. This is how you need to think. So I won't tell you the answer. Go look for the answer. Once you find it, come and discuss with me. Let's see whether we're on the same page with this. Let's see what you have come with, which may not be the general answer, but could be correct as well. So I think just letting them come up with ideas. They come and do 3D printing. Yesterday I had this whole heap of 25 students in the afternoon after school from 3:30 to 4:30. And they were doing all sorts of things all over this place. You had spheros running around here, 3D printing going on, VR over there, playing games, setting up environments using Minecraft. Just seeing these students doing this. It was not a project that they were doing. They were just having fun. So devoting that time in the afternoon. Yesterday, this group of students were working on this monitor. They were, playing using the VR goggles, the HTC Vive. And they were playing games. And I said, next week, put it up on the smart TV. So, and they said, one of the kids quickly said, yeah, that's what I do at home. I've got this TV and I connect this to the TV. And I said, well, why don't you do it in school? Do it in your other subjects. Do it in your classroom. When your teacher doesn't know, you show the teacher. And you say, this is what we do in DigiClub. This is what I do at home. Show the teacher. One, you will reduce the, angst that the teacher has in terms of
having to know everything.
Having to know everything. Exactly. And they then find a go-to person in the class. And secondly, the student feels so good about themselves being able to help, and that helps them in their learning process. They feel so good. So I think I really love working with the younger ones too, and also to encourage them so that in 3-4 years' time, they are the ones who are leading. So I'm looking long term. I think it's important for educators to think long term and not forget the young ones coming up. Because the lower you get, the more you train them. By the time they hit grade 9, grade 10, you've already got this group of kids who know your job is done. They can take over and do and you are just walking around and,
You're facilitating.
Exactly. Facilitating that part of their learning, 2, they're having fun. And they do little projects. We would do competitions, so they'll be taking part in competitions. So we form different groups and... I'm very approachable. I'm strict as well. They know that. I'm firm. I believe in being firm and fair and also having fun. That's the 3 F's I follow, right? So I say to them, have fun. I'm very fair. Do you think I'm fair? And they'll tell me, yes, Mrs. Singh, you're strict. But at the same time, they do not hesitate in coming and talk. They know that what they'll get from me is advantages for them.
That's brilliant. And one of the things I want to go back to, something you mentioned, was allowing them to make mistakes. And for that to happen, they actually need to feel safe, firstly. And I have my own methodologies at a tertiary level, but at a high school level, how do you facilitate a safe space for them to be okay with making mistakes?
Yes, I think. Like I said before, I am quite blessed, with the resources that I have. And
by the way, actually, sorry to interrupt. I for the listeners, I need to describe a little bit about what we're sitting in right now. There's a STEM building in St. John's Anglican College, and I'm literally sitting in Sharon's office. But to the right of me, there's a green screen with a podcast recording station, a vlogging stations, and then behind me, there's a whole bunch of open spaces. open spaces for collaboration, group activity. Then there's 3D printers, laser cutters, VR goggles, and a makerspace with workshop equipment. It's all there in one floor. And I believe you had something to do with leading and designing that space as well.
Yes, it was. Yes, we had normal traditional classrooms when I joined St. John's.
Yeah.
And what I did was I think our vision was to have a space where we could have this collaborative learning and making this facilitating easy for the staff and also for the students.
Yeah.
So I requested to actually go to High Tech High in San Diego, and
wow.
The school sent me.
Yeah.
So I went and spent a few days at the different campuses there to see how they do it. So it was an eye opener. It's an amazing place to visit. So they do project-based learning. So, and everything is very transparent. Mm-hmm. So you can look inside the classroom, you can look outside. So it's all glass, which is very, it can be quite daunting for teachers if you take the walls away, mm-hmm. or you have people looking inside when they're teaching. So I think one of the biggest hurdles that we have to cross is to actually get the teachers on board. It's a new way of teaching for the teachers, but it has been so positive in this environment. Teachers have taken to it, and it has been of no problems here. In what we have been doing. So the space is actually quite conducive to the learning that's going on. The makerspace is just beautiful. We are able to use little beads, Arduinos and Raspberry Pis. They're building things, bridge building. We have the DET group in here as well.
Yeah.
Then we have, not every child is does programming, coding, and not every child likes it.
Yeah.
So we also have the other side, the other side of technology that we do. So we have photography and filming and sound recording. So they have a lot of fun.
It basically facilitates a space that even if you're left brain or right brain or a bit of both, you've got something to go on. And so I think you've done an incredible job here. But
thank you.
A lot of the schools obviously have a lot more budget constraint, and I think you are lucky in that fact here. And which is why I think I want to be able to for other teachers in schools to understand what's actually available, what can be possible, even as a school here in Australia. But I think we went off on a little bit of a tangent.
Yes, we did.
That's my apologies. But bringing back to that facilitation of a safe space, how do you actually engage that?
Yes, I think for a child to feel safe in an environment is the people that they are working with. Mm-hmm. I think for me, I think one of the things that influence me to be really, provide that environment of like, I feel safe, I feel free, I feel I can do things that I want to do here, is being a parent myself. As a parent, what I did with my children, I also practice here. So every child is like, your own child, and you want the child to be safe. We have in the technical aspects of it, like for instance, I do drone lessons with the students. I want the children to be safe. So it's very clear to get that in the instructions are 3D printing. They're dealing with heat, so they don't burn themselves. So you have to provide these clear guidelines, your expectations, your clear guidelines, and being fair. Remember that one of the F's that I mentioned,
of course.
Being fair. If one child does something wrong and another one does something wrong, you're consistent in the whatever consequences that they have for that behavior. So I think that the children then see, okay, yes, Mrs. Singh is fair. I'm able to do this. Yesterday afternoon, I had these kids. They were 3D printing. There's a grade 7 children, and they were 3D printing. So they put their hand inside. They want to take the filament off the nozzle, and the nozzle is quite hot. Mm-hmm. So I gave them a piece of cloth, and I said, you need to make sure that I'm standing here when you are doing this. I do not want you to be, at that point in time, they're little kids and I needed to be there with them. So let me know, I'll come there, but you do it.
Yeah.
So I let them do it. So I gave them the cloth and I said, okay, you can clean it, keep your skin away, put a glove on, and then you clean it. So he did that. Today, the same kids came today and they wanted to print. So I let them print. That was at morning tea time because it takes a few hours. They're back at lunchtime checking and they loved it. But here's the thing. We talked about problem solving before. So they had a few pieces, about 8 pieces on it. So one piece was long, like a rectangular shape, laying flat on the plate. But when they're printing it, it wouldn't print. So I said, okay, go and solve it. See what's the problem. Then come and tell me what you think would work. So they went, had a look at their model. They came back and they said to me, oh, miss, I think we're going to put it up straight. So it's vertical. That way we can have a support at the bottom. And so the support, because the boy said to me, when it's sitting, sitting flat on the surface, the support fills in. How are we going to take it out? I said, very good. You're thinking. Excellent.
Yeah.
So now go and, find a... So they came back and they said, okay, we'll just stand it vertically, but we'll just have the support at the bottom. And I said, brilliant. Let's test it out then. So they went and printed. Today they printed. They were jumping and screaming because they had it right.
Perfect.
So this is, so they felt that they could work here. They know they know what the guidelines are, what the rules are. I think making those expectations clear lends itself to a safe environment.
Yeah.
Being there for them when they are, working in that space. Good supervision is important. We need to have adult supervision with these young kids. It's important. But at the same time, training other senior kids to work with them too is also, I find, very good. So, we have this particular environment that I work in is conducive. We'll have a class of grade 12s in this space. And then just next here, we'll have a class of grade 7s or 8s. So they're able to intermingle and talk to one another. And the teachers have now come around that.
Yeah.
The teacher comes and talks to my kids. I go and talk to their kids. So it's such a beautiful... Yet we have 2 separate classes we're doing.
Yeah.
So I think going back to safety, it's important that we do provide a safe environment and, physically, but also they need to feel safe emotionally and mentally. Correct.
Yeah.
And I think being approachable... knowing that you're letting them do things like they were worried about the filament. We tested this one. I said, don't worry about the filament. You just print. Let's see. I'm happy for you to print. Don't worry about the filament. I'll provide. I have some. I'll provide that for you. But just test it out and see how you go. They were worried. Oh, we've done so much support in there. It's wasted. I said, don't worry. That's part and parcel of learning. We will always make mistakes.
Yeah.
But when we get the right answer, we won't make that mistake.
Yeah.
So that's how the students learn, I think. But yeah, letting them make the mistakes. Even when they're filming, we let them make mistakes. And then I'll say, remember, time is a big factor. So you have to be very realistic. You make a mistake, you'll have to redo the whole thing. So you have to do it in little chunks. So I think
before you do things. And
yeah. So I think going back to what I talked about, the higher order thinking skills is very important. Every class, I think in every subject area, every teacher, I start every term with my first lesson in every class I teach is on higher order thinking skills.
And this is exactly what paves the path towards innovation and leaders in thinking and whatever the subject context might be.
Yes.
So that's brilliant. I think you're learning. The real lucky people are your students in the end.
I think the students are very brilliant. I think the kids here are amazing. They just need to be directed in the right way. And like I said before, it's all about facilitating rather than standing in front and lecturing to them.
Yeah.
Letting them go in there, dip in there, do the thing. If they make a mistake, hey, work with them on it and just move, direct them to get out of that mistake and then go back, revisit it and to see, hey, this is what happened. Evaluate it and really think about, hey, where did it go wrong?
So that gives accountability and ownership for the student.
Yes. This kid was printing these SD cards he wanted to put, so he was printing a box. However, when he printed, one of the students, he printed it out, 3D printed. It was a bronze one, a copper bronze color. So he put and I said, okay, let's test it out. I said, what is this? He said, because I didn't even know what he was printing, right? So he said to me, so I said to him, what is it? He said, to put the Nintendo SD cards or something.
Yeah.
So we tested. So I thought he meant this SD card. So I put the SD card in, and it was small. So the SD card was sitting on top. It should fit inside. And I said, oh, your size is wrong. So maybe you need to... So what do you think you should do? Should you lengthen it or broaden it? He said, I think we have to do both. So I said, well, tomorrow come and print it and fit... So he was thinking, he was talking about how he can do it. He's telling me on the table, this is what I need to do. I'm going to go look at my model and do this.
Yeah.
That keeps them thinking. So
Exactly.
That's the best part.
That's perfect. And I want to actually take a second here to understand what the word facilitation means, because the way I approach facilitation at a tertiary level when I'm dealing with design students, it's a little different to how the context is in a high school setting. When I've got 30 design students, I can't be implementing on what I believe is a good design style. Everyone is unique. That's what would make a good designer unique. Not creating 30 copies of myself. So not imparting my own values and beliefs and what I think quote unquote looks good or follow these designers. It's more telling them this is what I believe, but formulate your own design style and think on your own. Not just saying this is what the tutor said, this is what he thinks is right. Question what I've actually said. Does it actually align with what they need? Does it actually work with the context of what they're thinking? And it's uncomfortable, especially for first years, and I see that in their face because it's not what they're used to. But as they go on, they realize that that's actually bringing out their own design personality and own brand and own personality, and because of that, they're going to be stronger in what they're going to do. So it is a path less traveled, but in the end, they get to a beautiful destination. And so one of the things I wanted to ask you was actually, in having to facilitate this STEM institute with all these technology that's around you, with VR coming into play in education and playing a big part, AR coming into it, AI is actually making a huge difference. I actually recently read a PwC report on what AI will be doing to the future of work, and their predictions by 2035 is to replace almost 44% of the blue-collar work industry. That's huge. So what happens to students who are in primary school now? They're the ones who are going to be entering that workforce. How do you, as a teacher, stay ahead of the rapid technology change?
It's not easy, especially being from the older side rather than being a younger educator. I think it's, how do I keep abreast? I think I consciously train myself. I want to be a step ahead of them.
So you're constantly learning.
Yes, I'm constantly learning. I'm reading. I'm going to conferences. I do tutorials. I've joined master classes. I mean, I just tried. And the best people I learn from are my kids.
There you go.
My own children and the students here.
Yeah.
This is what I say to them in the beginning. I'll just stand in front of the class and I said, I may know a little bit more than you, but you know a lot.
Yeah.
You need to come and teach me. Like if you find anything new, please come and show me.
Yeah.
Let's learn. I'm happy to learn from you. That really, it just breaks the ice. It just brings them, Mrs. Singh doesn't know everything. It's such a good thing for them.
It makes you more approachable as well. It makes you human.
Yes, yeah. It just makes, I think, I just feel like this balloon has kind of rested on the table and it's like, okay, right. So now they come in to me. Today we talked about 2 different technologies that the kids, Mrs. Singh, did you hear about this? This is my conversation every time people enter Mrs. Singh, did you hear about this? So they take me, I think for teachers it's very important. What you say to the students, you must mean it. So when you've said something and the students act on it, then you shouldn't be annoyed about it or ignore it or think that I don't have time for this, I have to teach my curriculum or I have to teach my content, I think you have to make time for those things.
Yeah.
If I've said to the students, come and show me, come and teach me, show me if you find anything new, then if they do bring it, I need to stop and listen and see.
And you're there with them.
Yes, yeah. I think that's very crucial.
And I think that goes back to creating a safe space as well.
Yes, very much so. And I think that's what makes it some of the crazy things these kids say, right? But anyway, I think keeping abreast. I read, I subscribe to all these magazines, and I do a lot of reading. And in my role as the head of e-learning, I also train my staff, and I also pass down all these readings and material to the teachers in different areas for, relevant to their area.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to keep ourselves as educators, and especially in my field, in the field of technology, it's very competitive. There are young people, young educators. I love working with them, and I love giving them the space to really shine in that area.
Yeah.
So even students and younger teachers, they are very good. They've got amazing ideas. So I don't like using the word use them, but I really want to shine them out and help them to reach out to the students as well, and teach the students these different technologies. But going back to your, PD and stuff, recently I was at The Hague in Amsterdam, and I went to this IB Leadership Series workshop, and it was on culture. How do we address culture in our school? So mine is not only
culture in a classroom scale, or culture as a whole school?
Culture in a whole school, culture amongst the staff, culture. It's about the different cultures that we have in our schools. In Australia, it's a very beautiful country. It's a very blessed country, I think. And I've been very blessed coming to this country.
Yeah.
And you go into any classroom, you see such a mixed group of students. How do we address those cultural differences in our classroom? This was an amazing workshop that I attended. So yes, I do keep abreast, reading, attending workshops, doing all these different types of PDs and learning from these young ones.
I think the difference there is you're actually going, when you're looking at your learning, you're doing it as a part of your learning as a human being, not necessarily thinking this is just something that I need to do for my job. It's part of, you've taken ownership because it's your passion and bringing your vision alive. And you're not just looking at PD or training or learning about things that are directly related to just the syllabus or the subject content. You're looking at everything about how do you improve the classroom, like the culture example. How does the open space collaboration works, or anything else? Is that right? Like, is that why you go at every different direction?
It's very important, I think, for us as educators not to have this tunnel vision.
Yep.
You need to think outside the box. You need to address the real needs that are in our classrooms, because our classroom, my area is technology, but because I think I have this vision. More than others maybe, because as the head of e-learning, I work with every subject area in the school, in the college. So it's primary teachers, secondary teachers, humanities, science, chemistry, biology, physics, math teachers. So I'm working with in every department, in every area, music. All their needs are so different. Yeah. And we are focusing on their learning, the learning of the students. It's not only the students who have, which I mentioned before in terms of cultures, it's not only the students that are of different cultures. We have our staff who come from different cultures, whose first language is not even English. So you have to really broaden yourself in that area. Yeah. And it's not only that, even like, for instance, design thinking. It's not only to do with technologies. Yep. You look at numeracy and literacy. You're looking at broader than one particular subject area. Just being mindful, like being healthy human beings ourselves as educators. Yeah. Exercise, and all this. Reading, not just reading for our profession, but just light reading. What sort of light?
For entertainment, for anything.
Exactly. Yeah. Games they play. I push these things to my staff. I think it's important to have this balance. And I'll tell you where I think I've learned more of that than anything. Remember, I've been working in the advanced placement with the American, IGCSE, the IB. IB is very holistic, and that's what it has taught me. It's to you train a child to be holistic. You yourself as an educator become so holistic, and you start thinking in that way. So everything is international mindedness, it's all global. So I still connect and work with schools all over the world.
Yeah.
I've been setting up schools in Nepal.
There you go.
I'm on my way to Myanmar. We've just opened up our IT center in Myanmar. So I work with the education department. I'm writing curriculum, but I'm working with these less fortunate individuals.
Giving back.
Young people giving back because we are so blessed here.
Yeah, that's impressive. That's impressive. One of the things, this is a bit of a tangent actually, but it triggered my mind when you were mentioning the culture in each group, and when you're looking at all the different student cultures and staff cultures. One of the things that I do in my classes in the very first instance is try to read the personality of every single student. There's 25 odd students looking at you, and every single person is unique. Every single person is different, and they all have different upbringings and values and personalities. And the reason I'm actually doing that is to understand my approach on how I can best connect with them. Because if I can connect with them, then I can teach better. And the knowledge transfer becomes smoother. But one of the things that I try to implement is Maslow's hierarchy of needs, but at a classroom level, and understand and empathize with the student, whether if they're going through the basic level needs and there's something wrong at home, doesn't matter if they're a grade 7 student or a high achieving student. If they don't have the basic needs met, they're not even thinking about grades or how to perform in school. Their life is falling apart. It could be. But as an educator, understanding that and being able to sympathize with them and creating achievable targets rather than telling them going, oh, well, your GPA's dropped now compared to what you used to do, and then helping them work that up. So little instances like that, I try to do that with 25 odd different people. Do you think there's any value on doing that at an individual level in terms of a knowledge transfer?
Yes, I think it's very important. It hits them where the need is. It's important for us. One plan doesn't fit. One size doesn't fit everybody.
Yeah, 100%.
Yes, and that is where we have this differentiation, in our classrooms. We do that. We have staff that help us design our lessons to help the students that will help the varied students that we have in our classrooms.
Yeah.
It's important to know your children in the classrooms that you are teaching in. Know more than just the academics. Yeah. It's very important. So we have our system on our network. We have information on every child. And teachers can go and have a look and prepare themselves.
Understand their context.
Exactly. The context is so important. Read the notes that are there. So we are encouraged. Yeah. We have a very good leadership in our school that has got all these systems in place. Our pastoral care is fantastic, led by our deputy principal. And it's just amazing in the way. One of the things about this school, which I really like, is it's not very huge. And the way there's so much care for the students in this school is just fantastic. Yeah. It's not just academic oriented. Yes, academics is great.
But that's the result of it. You end up actually becoming and creating high-performing students because of that.
It's the well-being of our children which is so important. And you hit the nail on the head. It's finding out their comfort levels.
Yeah.
And like I said, culture is such a big thing, we don't think of it, but it does. One kid, let's say a non-English speaking kid, comes to school. At home, they're all speaking this language. They step into the school environment, everything is in English.
Yeah. They
go back. The minute they enter the house, it's back into that language.
Yeah.
Can you imagine what's going on in the head of these
very difficult
children? This is what they talk about. This is what they eat. This is what happens at home. But when they come here, this is totally different environment for them. Yeah. And therefore, we as educators need to be mindful of that as well.
I'm actually going to share a little story. This is about my life when we first moved to Australia, actually. Not many people know about this. So even though I'm in Brisbane now, my family moved to Melbourne and they went into grade 6. And there was a language barrier. So in Sri Lanka, we speak in Sinhalese, and the school is 100% Sinhalese. There's an English class, but that's it. And when we come here, even though I had the confidence in the language, everyday classroom setting is 100% in English. And I remember failing almost every single math quiz because of the language barrier. So I'll give you an example. The teacher would read out something and we're supposed to write the answers. And I believe they actually had an interview with my parents to talk to them about how much I'm struggling, because quiz after quiz, it's low marks. And they were concerned, going, this might be too much for him. I think he needs to go to a remedial class or something like that. I'm not sure exactly what they told him. But an example I remember distinctly, and I have the image in my head right now. The teacher asked, the question was 43 divided by 7. What's the remainder, right? And I'm looking around thinking, what the heck is a remainder? There's no one who's taught me that word before. It's completely brand new, so it was a complete shot in the dark, and I would just write something like 0 or X or something, just hoping it would be right. And obviously I'm nowhere near the ballpark, but then it was because of the language barrier. But then there was no understanding from the teacher's point of view that this was what was going on. Whereas when I moved into Brisbane, the first thing that they actually did was go through and understanding my context and understand my language skills and measure IQ through a different capacity, not just a standardized test. And then they realized, no, actually he'll be fine here. Give him some English support so it'll bridge that gap. That was only about a month back into the full swing of things. So it's that little thing, but what would have happened if I had continued on that path? Most likely would have gone into a remedial. I probably wouldn't be interviewing you, That's actually something a lot of people don't know.
You've just told them.
There you go.
But no, you're right, Rashan. It's important to see the context of not everyone as a whole, but every child on their own. You know, when I say child, I'm talking about these grade 11s and 12s as well. Of course. It's not just the the primary school kids or the little middle school, but also every child. I think it's important to see where they're coming from, what's happening, being aware of it. We don't have to know all the details, but what is making them tick, I think is important.
100%. And one of the things that I believe is, as an educator, it doesn't matter about the subject content. We need to have an understanding of biochemistry and our self-awareness of our mindset and how things work, because if we're more self-aware, then we can recognize that in our student and understand what's going on. Sometimes the students' lethargy is actually because they're not drinking enough water properly.
Playing games on their computer.
Something like that. So telling them, going, okay, maybe try that, have a glass of water, see how you feel, by the way. And then all of a sudden all these things start to fall into place. Just a quick example, but 100%. One of the things I do want to ask is, what's your vision long-term for education, and how do you see the future of education in Australia? I know that's a tough question.
It is. You put me on the spot, Rashan. I think the vision. I think, especially with the experiences that I've had, and two of the countries that I've taught in is Hong Kong and South Korea. And I've taught in Hong Kong. I taught in the advanced placement, which is the American curriculum. And then in South Korea, I taught the International Baccalaureate, the IB, which I have been, I'm an examiner and a moderator for that as well. What that has shown me is, when I came back into Australia, I saw quite a few gaps. This is just solely in the academics, in the curriculum. And I think Australia is taking a good step in terms of looking at the needs. For instance, in Queensland now we have the new QCAA curriculum that we've got, the new senior curriculum. They are addressing that. I think as you look around, you find that there are the way students think. I find that what we had and what we are now doing is bridging that gap. Is addressing the needs of tomorrow, because the kids that we have now will be in future doing the jobs we still don't have. And in order to do that, our curriculum needs to address the gaps that we already have. And I think we're going in the right path in what the Australian curriculum is doing. Give you an example. For instance, my area, digital technologies, computer science. That's what I've been teaching in these countries, heading departments in this area. When I came in here, what I saw I did not like. I felt that they were, especially, for instance, in the knowledge and understanding area. Many a times I found here it's project-based. Yes, project-based is amazing. I support it, fully support it. However, you need to have that underpinning knowledge. You need to have the knowledge and understanding. So what I did when I came here, before these curriculum changes, when I arrived here, the changes were happening. I was a senior project officer at the Department of Education in the digital technologies curriculum. So when I joined St. John's, which was after that, looking at this gap, I found students did not know. They were very good at using the technology, but when it came to designing or looking at how the technology works, they had no clue.
Actually thinking behind it.
Yes, the thinking behind. They had no idea whatsoever. They know how they press the buttons, it does things. Yet when you go to the back end, they had no idea. So what I did was I have a friend in the Digital Technologies Institute. He owns it. He's a CEO of it. So he's a German, Dr. Carsten Schulz, and he produces the Blueberry 4, the B4. So it's B4 is a unit that teaches logic, binary to denary, denary to binary. So it teaches how the internal system of a computer works.
Brilliant.
So I brought that in for the grade 8. So I changed the whole curriculum, put it in the grade 8s for them to learn how this works. So they learned what the control unit was, they learned the programming aspects of it. And you should come and visit one of my grade 8 class. There's a teacher who teaches that class. I worked with Dr. Schulz. We did the trial version. We did a handbook for the students. He's written everything. We tried it. We gave him feedback. He fixed it. Now he's got it all going in. We're the first school that has got class sets we're using in our classes. But the grade 8s are learning what the back end. So it culminates in a project. They do all these units. Then it culminates in it's very practical. We've got these kits we've bought, which are not very cheap, but they're very, very good. Then they do these experiments, then they come to the project. So we go to the IBM IP design. They will design a machine that will add. So we give them how many numbers we want them to add. So they design using this kit.
Perfect.
That. But it comes, just watching them getting it is just fantastic. So the knowledge and understanding gap is being breached. Now these kids will go, if they can go into the engineering field, but it's that...
Firstly, it's the fact that they're going to recognize there is a back end to something.
Yes.
Back end to everything.
Yes, and just I think whetting it's just whetting their appetite.
Yeah.
So as they go forward, I think putting that love for them to look at what the internal systems of these technologies, how they work. Yeah. Creating apps, looking at building things that use technology. I mean, Arduinos. We've been programming Arduinos and Raspberry Pis. These kids, one student. So we make it very practical. So I just said, okay, this is what you have. So as an MIP unit, and I said, okay, you go and solve a problem for somebody a family member. So this particular student in grade 9, he was in grade 9 or grade 10, he decided he's going to make an alert system for his grandfather. His grandfather owns thousands and thousands and acres of land, and they have cattle farms, right? So, however, they have pests on their farm, and these pests, they have this trap, and it goes inside, gets caught, and then it rots in there and smells. The farmer is not able to go to every trap and check because the land is so big. So every once in a week or 2 weeks or something, I don't know what time he goes, but he says it's such a nuisance. So what the student designed, he used the Arduino. He programmed an alert system. So when a fox, it was a fox trap. So when a fox entered the trap, it triggered this message on the app.
That's great.
Yes, and that would alert the farmer. So he had a GPS, he had a map of all the traps in the farm.
Yep.
So it would alert the farmer, his grandfather, that, hey, this trap in this place has got a fox that needs to be gotten rid of.
So did you end up giving... How did he identify that problem? Did you set constraints and he went and found his own problem to solve?
Yes, we do give a little bit of structure. Like, for instance, not much though. I kept it very flexible. While he did this, use the Arduino. So I would say, okay, use an Arduino, use this, whatever.
The tools.
Yes, you'll give the resources. You'll say, these are the resources. That's the constraint you'd have.
Yeah.
However, what they come up with is their idea. Nothing, I don't even go in it. They have to. See, there was another group, same thing. They used an Arduino. They did two things. They 3D printed. See, the one with the fox trap was, one, they had this Arduino sitting in the box. So every trap would have an Arduino, which is programmed, and they had that with the app. So they did an app and the Arduino was programmed, right? So there's two things. Another group of kids, we had this law about this bicycle, cycling clubs.
Yeah.
What do you call these people that cycle on the road, right?
Yeah, cyclists.
Cyclists.
Yeah.
Okay, they're cycling down the road. So the distance that they can be away from a car is 1.5 meters, right? So these kids, this is their ideas. I'm just sharing this with you.
Yeah.
So their idea was, okay, miss, what we're going to do is we're going to program this Arduino, and they're going to put it on the bike. So every time any vehicle comes less than 1.5 meters, it comes within the 1.5 meters from the bike while the person is cycling, it's going to do this loud noise alert, and the LED lights are going to go on the bike, which the driver can see.
Yeah. And an alert for the biker as well.
And the rider, yes.
It makes them feel safer.
Yes, so this is the kinds of things what I'm talking about is like, well, look at the box, like you have these 3D printed boxes, like cables on the floor.
Yeah.
So we're looking at practical solutions that the students in grade 7, 8, 9 are coming up with now. You just give them the resources, the tools. Yes, you do the knowledge and understanding part, very important. You must cover that. Then you let them go and say, okay, this is it. You go and come up with it, discuss it with me, and then I'll approve it, and then you can go ahead. They do budget, they do, is it feasible, presentation, everything. They do all those processes. So they do a design cycle where they research, so they do analyze.
Their design thinking.
Yes, and then they do designing, and then they create it, and then they evaluate it, and then the cycle goes back in again.
That's brilliant.
But they do the process. It's very formal. They have to test it, and I make them test and refine 3 times. So test it, refine, test, refine, test, refine.
Yeah.
Your last refinement, the third refinement is your final product.
Yeah.
It's something that we make them do, and then they evaluate it. It's just mimicking what they would do in a real world.
It is. But
they do it in a smaller scale. It may be smaller, but now I'm letting them do projects that they want to. Like two girls. I'm very proud of these girls because there's so few girls in my higher classes. They're very scared. They feel it's very nerdy. They don't do it. It really, that's what they tell me when I ask them. But these two girls made an app. So they created an app to detect anxiety. So or when they get agitated. So because detecting anxiety can be very difficult. So what they do is when a child gets in, it's a primary school or a middle school here. So if a child here in school gets agitated in class, they'll have this band on a wristband, and it will alert. The sensor will alert when they get agitated, and on their phone it'll tell them do this, step 1, step 2, step 3. Right? So they 3D printed the armband, it's sitting somewhere, and then they embedded the thing, and they actually created the app.
They're going to be the future generations of leaders who are going to be the future Mark Zuckerbergs. You're literally creating a room full of Mark Zuckerbergs, I feel like.
Yes, and I think it's all of us can do it. creating an app, you need a computer, you need code. That's all, like you need...
Yeah.
You don't need to have an expensive robot like the Neo robot I have, right? Like the Neo robot is another thing. I really love it because I'm teaching them, coding, programming. But at the same time, one of the lessons I had with them was right in the beginning when I start. This is in grade 9 and 10, and I said I just laughed when what they came up with, but it was so real and so practical. So I taught them movement and I taught them sound, like how to program the sound, how to program movement on the Neo robot. So then I said to them, okay, now go. This was just an activity. It wasn't a project. It was just go and program the Neo to have sound and movement. So your robot should have some sort of sound and some sort of movement. I gave them 20 minutes. And then next lesson, we had a look. And this particular child programmed the Neo to... it was so hilarious. You've got the Neo in front. He runs his code. One of the things we do use, which I find very good, very effective in class, is using our smart TVs. And I let my students, because it's so important in my subject area, I let them use their phones. I let them use their iPads. Any technology. We do have rules in class. They come in. If they want to use it, they have to raise their hand and they have to say, Mr. Singh, I'd like to use this. They have to tell me what they're going to use it for, and I let them use it. So after that, they're free to use it. I have not had one single child abuse it. So I think letting them use it we need it in our classroom. We need it for this subject area. We need apps they are making. It's on the phone. They're doing graphics. They have to look at different platforms that they are, publishing this website maybe, or the graphics, how it looks on a small screen, how it looks on a big screen. We have to see that. But using the smart TV, and this is why it's so good. I can monitor it so well. Students will be sitting. We use the Vivi, and they are able to screen. To project their screen on the smart TV. So while we're working, and I'll say, okay, so-and-so, can you please put your screen? Let's see what have you found. They'll come, they'll have a good music they've heard last night. They'll come and play it, and we'll all listen. They'll have a little video clip of funny things or something. It doesn't even relate to anything in the class, but they'll come and play it because we have so much fun in that. So I think having these tools together with having this safe environment and also an environment where we both are teaching and learning, I think is very good. The students are teaching me so much. And I acknowledge that when they teach me, and I then have them teach other teachers as well. So that's really helpful. There
you go. And one of the things that I want to let our listeners know, because a lot of state schools do struggle with budget restrictions and different facilities. I went to a state school and I still had the same connection with the teacher without these new tools and toys. We literally had a makerspace, and it was the connection that was more important, and the fact that he was facilitating my learning. And so I want to let the listeners know that you don't have to get discouraged just because you don't have the smart TVs. If you don't, that's fine. That's not why the students are loving you. That's the important thing. And I think if you do have it, then you're in a very blessed school. And you can do more things, but it doesn't mean you cannot be a good facilitator and pave that pathway towards innovation. I'm just a little bit mindful of time, and I know you were a little bit daunted about talking in front of the microphone, but you've done an incredible job. And I just want to thank you for giving up your time, and I can see now, and I think the listeners will agree that this is why you're a leader in innovation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rashan. Thanks for this opportunity, and all the best.
Thank you.